doing this with us. Super awesome. We're going to kick off with round trips of introduction. I'm just going to introduce everyone on the call, all of our panelists, and we get into the conversation for today. So I will start, on my right hand side. Kevin. Kevin currently works with a global payment company called Stripe. Prior to joining Stripe, he was previously working with OpenAI. He did a lot of work, roughly about a year, and he has also worked with other companies like Qatar and some other companies as well. Then we have Harshit. Harshit is a staff software engineer at Google. He was previously a staff software engineer at Twitter, now X, right? And prior to that, I think he spent a lot of time working with other companies like Uber and the like. So actually nice to have you on the call. Then we have Victor. Victor, formerly at Google and Snapchat. I think he spent some time at Samsung as well. And Victor is now in startup, so he has been doing a lot of work, building companies and selling them. I think he sold the first company at the age of 15 or so. Victor, do you want to talk more on that? Awesome. So Benedict currently based in Japan, doing his AI research, master's. But prior to that, he was a Google DeepMind fellow. I think he spent more of his time working as data scientist for very funded companies in Nigeria, like Kobo 360, as data scientist and machine learning engineer. And it's super exciting to have various people based across different geographies, and we're just going to dive right in. So guys, thank you everyone once again, and thank you to our panelists. We have this warm-up conversation for everyone. You can chip in as the case may be. How do you guys see the current advancements in artificial intelligence, particularly in areas, let's say, LLM, generative AI, specialized AI models, reshaping the job markets across different industries? Who wants to go first on that? Any thoughts? Maybe you want to pick a particular industry and see, discuss on how AI, different areas of AI has been shaping those markets across different geographies.
Sure, I can get started here. I think I'm on the school of thought that is opposite to a lot of other people. I do think that the job market across industries and across the world is going to be pretty impacted, right? Like if you take call centers, for example, right? And we're not talking about technology jobs yet, but if you take call centers and you employ OpenAI's voice mode and function calling, right? Call center agents can be entirely eliminated, and an LLM would probably be better at humans than this anyways, not getting frustrated, not getting annoyed at the calls that they have to take, and you don't have to pay AI, right? That's also a major selling point for the companies that are using these technologies, right? If you take even manufacturing, for example, right? The Tesla Optimus robots are going to be taking away manufacturing jobs that are repetitive and mundane. Figures, humanoid robots that are powered by OpenAI are also going to aim to do the same, right? And then even getting into technology jobs as such, you might have heard of companies in the United States doing layoffs recently, right? After investing money into using AI and using AI features and tools and such like that. And in one way, you can't really blame them either, right? So if you've heard of agents such as Cursor, Cursor as a development tool for an engineer that already knows how to code is going to actually be better in a lot of cases than an intern that you hire to the company, especially if that company's knowledge base and code base is well documented and well if the directed graph of the company base is very well defined, very well documented, Cursor is going to do better than a new grad level engineer, and Cursor is going to do better than an intern level engineer. And you're not paying Cursor, right? So these companies, they're doing layoffs, they're doing workforce adjustments and things like that, because AI is getting to the point where it is able to, in an agentic way, perform tasks that we as humans sort of also take a lot of time to process, conceptualize, and execute on. So yeah, I think generally there's going to be pretty significant changes coming up in every single industry. I don't think there are many industries that are safe from sort of what's going to happen in the next coming years.
Awesome. That's very good perspective from the United States. Victor, do you want to touch base on what you have been saying? Probably in Africa, UK, yeah.
Awesome. So one of the interesting things that I've noticed is, like you rightfully said, like Cursor has done a lot of innovation, and even for us internally, we just started using Cursor. I think we started using it 3 months ago, and honestly, like I was able to rewrite our core engine from the ground up. And the interesting stuff I found out in this space was that because I'm a senior engineer, it was so easy. I knew the bullshit. I knew what needed to be done. And I was like, oh, a lot of junior engineers and mid-level engineers are done and they're cooked. And it was just a fascinating story, because what I had to do was do a stress test. So like I was going to make a Twitter tweet on this, a thread on this. What I did was I created a stress test on OpenAI, got all my product and development roadmap, say, oh, this is how we want to achieve this goal. What am I now looking at? And I ran a simulation with OpenAI, and I maxed out my quota for the whole week. That's how crazy we went. And then I had a robust document. Then after that, I created a to-do list. That's when before Cursor introduced to-do list. This was still with O3, where O3 was still expensive and all of that. And that's when before Cursor released their Anthropic released their own model. And then I found out that it could take phase 1, build on that, take phase 2, build on that. And we had a very robust integration, and I just loved how it worked. And I had a conversation with a prime solution architect at Amazon. And the interesting thing he told us was that they migrated their whole code base to a new code base. And it took, like, in man hours, it was 100 years, man hours for that migration. And they did that in a couple of hours. So already in the engineering space, what I tell new engineers is that, hey, forget about AI, assume it doesn't exist. Understand the code base, because when you understand the fundamentals, you have this engineer that you can tell, hey, do this, do that, and that's quite interesting. Now in the medical side, like, of course, because it's medical, there's going to be a lot of pushback, but it's going to increase the speed in which research is being done. And then, of course, implementation might be slow, but the research process is going to be, so a research that might take 10 years or 20 years to do before it goes to market fit could be done maybe in a few months or in a year, and that reduces the time it takes to market fit. Of course, it's going to take some time because of all the regulation and acceptance, but general, the only place that I see AI not really taking any job in the next 10 to 15 years, and this is just a hot take, is on in construction. And the reason for that is because the software has finally catch up to the hardware, but now the hardware is it's lacking. And if you look at this robotic company that keeps getting bought from people, I've forgotten the Boston Dynamics. Their new version they literally rebuilt the robot from the ground up. And what I just looked at it from that side was that, in as much as we want to replace buildings, I don't see AI replacing buildings, like doing those buildings in the next 10 to 15 years. And not because it can't, but because of the regulation. People will push back and like, yeah, how sure are we that this building is going to be strong enough? It's not going to have some. This is just going to be a pushback. So what I was telling some people was like, hey, you know what? Go back to blue collar job, because you'll be safe for the next 15 years. But anyway, I don't really need to say a lot, because you touched every side. It's just adding up to what you've said so far.
And I think just to add to that, what you mentioned with Cursor, like with entry-level engineers, it's really important to get like the fundamentals down. Yeah, fully agree. Like, it is really just communication on our ends that's important, like moving forward, right? Especially when we have these models and things that can just take what we say, run background tasks and stuff like that. And also ignoring even things like we have model context protocol now, right? So your agents can just connect to literally everything. Like if you are not able to connect your LLM or your agent to something, you're doing it wrong at this point, right? If you can use MCP to just hook it up to literally anything you want, then there's going to be there's going to be an inflection point in which it is going to be our communication skill that's more important than our implementation skill, and our understanding of how things work that's at a high level that's more important than our intricate like technical understanding of like code bases or specific languages and stuff like that. And additionally, I think even for industries like construction, I agree that they're not gonna take over like the actual physical aspect of construction and like getting architecting buildings end to end finish. But I think there's small aspects to sectors such as that can also be replaced. Like using a bunch of cameras on site to do like the real-time safety inspections that somebody on site would have done, or somebody on site would have been taken care of for that time. There's I think even in the most like unexpected industries, we can expect to see some sort of some aspect of that industry or some aspect of the roles at which people play in that industry to be taken away by AI. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing that AI is going to take it. It doesn't mean that it's going to be like lower quality or that people are going to get hurt or anything like that. It's just going to be a significant difference and people are going to lose their jobs.
Yeah, like just to add to what you're saying, like again, sorry. So the interesting stuff is that because I've worked in several sectors and also working with government regulation, you look at the regulation, there's a lot of automation that's happening in India and China, but then it can't come to the States and it can't come to UK simply because there are these governing bodies that would stop it. So in as much as the technology exists, before the regulation gets it implemented, it's going to take time. I'm going to give like an example. So I did some job for the European government, the UK government, and basically what we needed to do was to get that was in the early stage of national machine learning. That was when we're still early stage when we had this what is it called, decision tree. People were losing their mind with decision tree, and then the idea was that how can we roll out the product very fast that would not have to go through the regulation and the medical body in UK. And the interesting thing we did was just simplify the waiting process of a staff and a user having this conversation. So just to add to what you're saying, like all those little stuff, when we increase that speed in time, we actually reduce the overall time for the construction. Then back to culture itself, what I see, and I think when you said the MCP, is that for me, I literally had to go back to learn some entry-level stuff because I just forgot about it because I just know how it works. But now I need to do prompt engineering, and like the biggest scam out there is prompt engineering, because you don't need to learn prompt engineering if you know what you're talking about. So for example, it's me making the fact that I'm a graphic designer, then someone that's a graphic designer actually know what he needs to do. So for example, I spoke with some photographers some days back, and they know what camera lens they are using, they know their settings, they know all that. And when they put that prompt into view tree by Google, it literally gave them the best output. But for me, I don't have that time. I just say, hey, I want a video of someone running. And I said, no, I don't like it. Can you make him smiley and all that? So I feel prompt engineering is just that lie that they tell people that, hey, if you can learn this, because at the end of the day, if I'm a senior engineer, I don't need to know prompt engineering. I know what the hell I want it to give me. And then the interesting side is that because of MPC now, all those documentations, and like when a new Flutter version comes out, the whole documentation is there. You just give it access to the documentation, but you now understand, hey, understand this documentation. This is what I want to achieve, and I want it this way. And it's just mind blowing. So anyway, just wanted to add to that too.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Maybe you want to chip in? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, yeah, like I think there's a big misunderstanding amongst people, especially getting into the space, that like prompt engineering is this separate thing that you need to learn, or like this separate like idea that you need to like study or anything. It's not. It's just communication, like you said, right? Like if you know what you're talking about, then you're able to get your ideas across to the model, and the model will understand that, because it's not like it doesn't take in code, or it doesn't take in specific phrases or whatever, right? It takes in well-formed ideas and instructions, and that's all you're aiming to generate by yourself at the end of the day.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Actually, do you want to focus on that?
Sorry, my microphone has stopped working, but let me know if I'm not clear. So I think this is like a very wide question, and I agree with a lot of things Kavin and Victor said. It's going to impact us for sure. There are like few more angles to this. There are too many more angles, but I can add a few. Uh, at least I feel it's going to impact me. So with prompt with AI and LLM, I think the entry bar has reduced, right? I think so. Anyone can like who knows English and has some I think reasoning skills. I think they can develop, let's say, at least a Hello World or like maybe a medium size app, right? I think so. The bar to entry has definitely decreased. Like you have like now website generators and other things which are able to do like customization, read, find like if there are issues, it treats the issues and it fixes more on top of it, right? But there's also like an alternative side to it, which is like if you are a junior engineer, it's still, or like if you are junior, or like who knows like little about the field, you're still going to get impacted more than seniors. The problem is like AI works 99% of the time and it is becoming better. I'll say it's not 99%, but yeah, it's becoming better. And when it does not work, the junior engineers, as Kavin and I think Victor said, they don't know what to do because they like, especially I think those who are coming out fresh now, they are doing vibe coding. And a lot of things like if LLM is generating something meaningful or not, right? You need like some supervision there. They lack that skills, right? Which is a very hard problem. I mean, at one point we are expecting them to use LLM because if they don't use, then they are going to fall behind. But if they use LLM, like they may not like learn sufficient skills, right? And that's one of the reasons we don't like. I mean, like fully autonomous systems or even flights, right? And they have still like partial autonomous systems, like where pilots still do like take off and landing because we don't want them to forget it, right? I mean, out of 1 in million chances that the things will not work, they should still have it in their muscle memory, right? I think are going to work. Um, so yeah, I mean, to me, like I agree with most of the things which others said. I mean, and I feel it's a very unpredictable field, like, but it's generally definitely impacting. Like, I mean, and the alternate side to it is like it's also expecting like senior engineers or other engineers like who are in the field to be far more productive. Like, so you can think that okay, if I was writing a doc like in a few days, now with AI, I can write a very rough version and ask it and I sometimes like I just give it, okay, this is the expectation format. Like, I mean, one of the things that Google we do is like performance and performance formats like yearly or something like this, right? I have role competencies. So I write something and then I ask AI to level up and do whatever like based on my role competencies, right? And I just do the validation. So a lot of times me like as a senior engineer, I plan things, how can I help AI? So I mean it's usually the other way I'm looking at. Like I mean it's not AI helping me. I'm trying to see how can I help AI. And then I think also like making sure like supervising what AI is generating, right? I mean, like I mean if AI generated some unit test or a code, junior engineer like a fresher, they don't know like what is code coverage and what kind of test cases do they have to look? How do they back back off and look at a bigger picture, right? I think these are like some of the skills which we have learned over a period of let's say multiple years, and that's going to be a big challenge at least.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashit. Benedict, do you want to kind of like take a stab at that? You know.
Yeah, hello everyone. I think Victor, Kevin, Hashid, they've spoken extensively on this, and I mean, this is a very huge concern, on the minds of most people as we are seeing, evolution in AI performance and research. But just, to clarify certain things. Yeah, like I saw a comment in, the in-call messages. Someone said totally agrees, and if he was just leaving high school, he would get into trade school. It's a funny comment, really, but I think we should view the the evolution of artificial intelligence in certain work areas more as not just this disruption, but as an actual evolution in how certain tasks are being carried out. Yes, eventually there's probably going to be that point where, like Kevin and Victor, rightly mentioned, certain roles obviously would have to phase out. But I still think right now, learning the fundamentals, learning the basics, being very well grounded in your craft, and then moving on with the evolution as it progresses, would still secure you a spot depending on what direction AI implementation takes tomorrow. So for example, I think most people don't know it or see it yet, but there's a unique, I see personally, this is my own view, I see a particular growing area of job opportunity, and those will be people that would clean up code bases, the moment the AI hype dies down. All the mess vibe coders are making right now, we would need people to actively clean up code bases. It's not enough you have functional working code, right? You need actual code that follows certain styles, certain principles, less buggy codes. And I think that's where senior engineers comes into play, right? Obviously AI tools are getting better with time, but then I still personally believe we still need that human in the loop factor. Most people believe in AI to autonomously, generate code and do this. I think we still actively need human in the loop. So in turn, what I'm trying to say is, yeah, right now we're seeing a paradigm shift, but I think it's more of an evolution for now than an utter disruption. We still need human in the loop eventually. And if because of the evolution that we're currently experiencing, you say you want to go to trade school and probably not chase a career in tech, I think that would be you missing out on, probably a unique, he's laughing, probably missing a unique point where you can actually function in the AI evolution stream. I would say learn your fundamentals well. It's very easy to be lost in the hype, right? Right now, you're supposed to spend, let's say, 3 months doing your data structures and algorithms, understanding how things work. But now, because there's AI, and you see people saying, oh, with AI, they completed a coding course in less than a week. Those kind of things, we are losing the ability to actually learn fundamentals because we are trying to focus on outputs. I think if you focus on your fundamentals, you would still find an area to function in this current evolution of AI. So that's my two piece. Thank you.
Awesome. That's really impressive. Yeah, Victor, you want?
Sorry. Let me add something here. So I love what you said, and it also opened something that I was having a conversation with my wife about our kids, and it had to be about your ability to think. And I found out that someone made a post online. And I was like, oh, he was having this conversation with an MIT student, and it felt like the MIT student's brain was booting when he was having conversation with him. So it's like, are you using an AI to talk? He said no, because he's so used to using AI now that he has lost the ability to think. And then I found out for me why I don't feel that way is simply because I've spent years thinking and planning, and then now I have this body of mind that is like vibing with me. I'm like, hey, that I'll say peer coding, where all of you guys come and say, hey guys, we need to build this stuff. Think of all that. So what I'm looking at, what's going to happen in the future now is that education is going to change. And the way I say it is that, so growing up, I did advanced mathematics at the craziest, like at my junior high. I even did game mathematics. I think they call it further maths or something like that. And what our math teacher did was he didn't care about your answer. He cared about how you approach your answer. And I see what the future is going to be is that everyone can get the answer. Now I want you to defend how you got your answer, and then give me your own take on how you got your answer. So, for example, there are more than one ways to approach an answer, to come to an answer. So what's your own take, and why did you choose this opposed to that? So that allows people to do creative thinking. I don't know how to do 10 times 20, 20 times 50. I've lost that race. I'm okay with that. But the Chinese still did not lose that still did not lose that vibe, because they make sure that their kids learn how to do arithmetic calculations on their head. So what I'm seeing in the future is that this damage is going to happen. It's already happening. And what's going to move away is that you can create your research paper, but we want to understand how your train of thought happens so that you can brainstorm and come up with ideas. So that's just what I was going to add to Benedict.
To provide some perspective on that sort of enshittification of human knowledge that we might end up seeing moving forward, my experience was that I was in university. I was completing my computer engineering degree in Canada, and GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 came out right at the beginning of my fourth year, and immediately you could see what sort of happened, and you could immediately see what students did once they got access to GPT-3, GPT-4, right? We had various assignments that were we had various courses that were sometimes not technical. All of those courses would be entirely skipped by people using GPT-4, GPT 3.5, right? You get a course where you're learning about, for example, the earth sciences, right? And say it's in the middle of COVID, and you're taking a quiz or you're taking an examination for the course, right? All somebody has to do to answer questions about earth sciences in a very general sense is just GPT-4 and get it out, right? So you can see an immediate shift in the attitude of students studying within the school, that were just offloading their thinking and offloading their work to just these AI tools and all of the resources that we have available that are able to give us answers to basic questions. And even for things like people working on assignments in digital electronics and circuits and things like that, right? With GPT's ability to like take in pictures and then answer questions about it, like people could genuinely offload a majority of their undergraduate career to AI tools, and that's a pretty scary thought to think about, right? Because although these people did it, they did it at an accredited university, and they got through. They didn't get caught. They didn't get in trouble. They themselves didn't feel like they had like some lack of learning or understanding, which they obviously did, right? If they were just using tools to get through it. But we're going to see a generation of people and students that have offloaded their thinking and that have still proceeded through the same avenues of life that we have, even if we think we have a full understanding of like the fundamentals and the basics and stuff like that, we're still going to be in the mix with a certain category of people that also use these tools to entirely skip that process, right? So it's going to be a matter of sort of identifying gaps of knowledge within teams that you get placed on in the future, identifying where there's lacks of fundamentals, and where there's sort of missing gaps in chains of understanding and things like that, because we're going to have vastly different demographics of people coming into the workforce moving forward, and not a lot of them are going to be having to hit the same checkpoints that a lot of people and a lot of universities had before AI and before the widespread use of just GPT-3 starting off. Yeah.
Awesome. So Kevin, I have this similar question to you right now. How do you think AI specifically is transforming, financial technology sector? You currently work with Stripe. Almost $100 billion business. And what do you think, or what have you been seeing as new career opportunities, that I imagine, within fintech or, landscape, financial services, technology sector, as a direct result of some of these advancements?
Yeah. So like you mentioned, I work at Stripe, and Stripe has pretty much we are very open to using AI and using AI tools, and everything from the development process to productionized tools that help our users and et cetera as well. I think I think this might not be very obvious to a lot of people that don't work in the fintech sector, but the highest value that we can get for AI in fintech right now, as it is in screening for fraud and risk. When LLMs are very good at making connections between sparse data, and when you have the characteristics of a payment and then you have another corpus of data, and we're not talking about LLMs specifically here, right? Like our entire understanding of AI and different, like, whether it's transformer-based models or other based models, our understanding of AI in a general sense as a society has gone up a lot, right? So we can make more effective models and things like that. But the most important in payments is screening for fraud and risk, OFAC and sanctions activity and things like that, right? And when you have a lot of transactions coming in, and when you process transactions to the scale that Stripe, for example, does, right, where we're screening transactions every like fraction of a second, it is very useful to have a frontier model that is able to look at the characteristics of a transaction and be like, hey, this could be somewhat fraudulent. Like, let's have this looked at for secondary review, or let's have it screened by a secondary system that can confirm, or a human that can confirm. So that's very prominent. That's very useful. And also just being able to reason about your payments and reason about where your money is going, right? You can imagine that at large scale payments companies, if you're accepting and taking in payments and sending payouts to different countries, you have to worry about different regulations. You have to worry about for example, right? If you're making debits in the United Kingdom, you need to send the bank an instruction called a DDI, a direct debit instruction first, that tells them that, hey, we're going to take money out of a user's account. This is the amount, and this is the sort of like pre-screening information that we have for that user. Only then will the UK payment systems authorize you to take a debit from that user. And this is in contrast to the US, where you can actually just take a debit like this without having to do a direct debit instruction. So in different places, there's a lot of different regulations. It's useful to have models that are able to reason about those regulations, right? Like, hey, I want to send money from the US in Canadian dollars to an account in Russia. What do I need to do? That's a very weird question, right? Usually you would need like a compliance, somebody that works in compliance or financial crimes to take a look at all of the specific policies and things like that, right? But having models ingest that information for us and provide us with interpretability and explainability for these obscure rules and for these obscure policies is really useful. And also just sort of in general, right? Like, fintech is very configuration driven, as much as we don't want it to be, right? When we're working with financial partners, a lot of banks are very old and they're not caught up with the paradigms of tech that actual like tech companies use nowadays, right? Like, a lot of banks, when you submit payments to banks, you're sending them bank files, and they're actually like manually parsing those files. Sometimes they're then sending you back manually like reconciliation files and things like that, right? So a lot of human actions, a lot of configuration driven work can be automated by AI, because you don't need a large understanding of what you need to do when you're changing these configuration values, when you're working with banks and things like that, right? You're just looking through a lot of files. You're looking to see what format and structure to follow. And LLMs are great at structure, right? And then, yeah, apart from that, I don't want to say that there's sort of like, you plop AI into the fintech sector and it like solves this whole big problem, because it's not as easy to plop it into the fintech sector, because we are, again, working with regulatory, we're working with compliance. We can't let AI agents just make payments or take payments for us on our behalf. But the last thing I would say is probably just the developer productivity increase from just using tools like Cursor and et cetera, right? Like I said, when you're working at a company that's doing payments technology, you're working across a lot of different flat files. You're doing a lot of configuration stuff. You're working with partner stuff upstream, and that automation, that level of automation that AI provides, is going to be able to help you a lot in terms of boosting your productivity there. Yeah, I talked a lot. That was it.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And have you, are there any career opportunities that you feel like, you mentioned something about fraud, fraud detection and all of that, are you seeing any kind of opportunities emerging due to these advancements?
I think in the fintech industry specifically, I don't think it's as prominent as other places where you're going to see whole new like categories of jobs pop up, right? Because the people that used to work on risk and fraud will still be working on risk and fraud. Now they're just adopting this new technology. We're not necessarily like, and companies shouldn't be doing this either. Like, we're not necessarily looking to hire people that are specialized in LLMs, right? Because it's still an MI and ML AI job at the end of the day. Like, you're not supposed to be thinking about just LLMs or about just the new recent advances in technology, right? You're supposed to be just adapting to what comes along. And what happened to come along at this time was GPT-4 and the improvement of large frontier models. So specific jobs that have gotten spun up because of that, no, but there is a whole new category of jobs that are being spun up at many companies that are just called leverage engineering. And leverage engineering consists of just using frontier models that are already created and provided by like OpenAI via Microsoft Azure or anywhere else, and you're just using these models to automate things and make things easier for developers. So people that have worked in the past on developer environments teams and things like that, they would now be doing some sort of leverage engineering as well to use AI to make their things better. For example, you push a commit to your CI system and your build fails, send a quick Slack message that summarizes the build failure message and gives the person a quick initial point to like start looking at, right? Things like that are what consists of leverage engineering. And those are the jobs that are spinning up the most now across many different companies.
Yeah.
Victor, yeah.
So when you said that, like, it just occurred to me, like, one of the roles in development I would actually lose in the next 1 year, 2 years, or it might go very down, is DevOps, because like a lot of us can do DevOps, but then we don't have the time to spend to keep scaling up to understand DevOps because it's constantly changing. But then I found out that because AI exists now, like, we don't need to have a DevOps engineer on payroll, because now the machine, the ML can literally do DevOps for us. So that's like one of those roles that, like, when you just said that, just like, oh yeah, DevOps. And I don't like AWS simply because I need to keep learning, oh, what new system? Okay, for example, we just migrated to AWS and the Kubernetes was an old version, and then we're being charged $20 per day because we're on a legacy system. Now, I didn't know that. I needed to upgrade, and by default, they won't give us the latest version. They give us like the oldest so that they can put it on a dependent side. So like a DevOps would have noticed that, but then I didn't really care because we had a lot of credits. It wasn't a point. But what I did was like, I just took a screenshot. Why the hell am I being billed this amount? It's like, oh, you're on a legacy server. You need to upgrade and you need to upgrade. And then we were able to set up our whole DevOps infrastructure, production level, in an hour plus. Yeah, it was a lot of back and forth, but that cost us around I say $20. When if it was going to cost DevOps engineers, it was going to cost us maybe $3,000, $4,000. So like DevOps jobs are going to be are going to go. But yeah, that was just what you just said. That was just screamed in my head. I was like, oh my god, DevOps.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and even like right now, right? Like there's some times where I need to log into like the AWS console and then change something on like our Postgres cluster, and I have no idea how to do that. Like I have zero clue how to do that, right? It's like you have to. I mean, if anybody in this session has opened AWS console, you'll know exactly what I mean. It's a mess, right? Like you are trying to do one simple thing, and you need to click into like 7 different drop downs. You need to get like 4 different access permissions, and then you need to like it's crazy, right? But I went on our internal LLM thing and I was like, hey, I need to go and change this in AWS console. And I provided screenshots of the page and I was like, okay, click this and then click this and then click this and then click this. And it worked out, right? So it's like that's super useful. That's something that I didn't expect it to be useful at, right? Navigating AWS console. I don't even know where it's not documented well enough for humans to read. So I don't know how AI figured it out, right? So yeah, stuff like that. It's going to be really useful for, like I said earlier, that connects to the fintech, like configuration-driven stuff, right? Like things that are configuration-driven and things that are documented, things that are in plain text on the internet it's going to be really helpful to help us get to automating there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So, Victor, I think I have a question for you. You know, based on your background, your experience, you know, working in different large technology companies to now working in startups, right? How does, you know, integration and impact of AI differ across these different environments? You know, what does it mean for evolving career paths in, let's say, folks trying to get into big tech or folks that are, you know, looking for opportunities in startups?
Oh wow. Okay, so I'm going to break it down: big tech and startups. So for big tech, they're not really on board, because you have legacy code base and you don't want to break something. So like he rightfully said, like first it's just going to be literally what he said, but the second stage is migration. And like with the conversation I had with AWS, they literally were able to migrate their whole system in literally few hours, something that would have taken them 100 human hours to do that. And that's the first step for big tech companies. The second step is for them to document their code base before they can start coding. And one interesting thing that people don't really get is that agentic coding is still a long way to go. And now the reason for that is because AI are good at bullshitting us and lying. And like some of these companies would say, oh, I created like every head of department was an AI. And at the end of the day, everybody was lying. And it did not really do the job. And I actually had this similar experience when, even with all my robust documentation, and this happened with Gemini 2.5, that was before their update, their last update. And what happened was that phase 4 needed, he was having issues, the AI was having issues implementing phase 4, and phase 4 had to do with working with PDFs and Excel sheets. So the issue, it was buggy, it wasn't working. So based on its reasoning, and this one thing I do also, like I use reasoning models because I want to know what the hell are you thinking while you're writing your code. I don't want you to, oh, it's done. How? Why? So I was following through its reasoning, and it was like, oh, so the user said, do phase 4, and he said it any way possible. So it rewrote phase 3 for me, and basically it could not implement Excel, but it could implement CSV. So it rewrote it for CSV. I was looking at it happening like magic. Like, dude, this guy was bullshitting me. And then it changed. It deleted a package, a package file. I introduced a new package file which I did not access to, and phase 4 was done. Of course, it's going to be cached in the jest test. The jest test was run. It failed, and it's like, oh, I understand. I was supposed to do this. My bad. The whole system broke. So I had to like take it back. I was like, no, do this. And I had to make my CD more robust, that you can't change the package files. You must have a documentation to change the package file. So why am I giving that story? This was just internal, and I was the only one in the company using using ML because I want to understand it so I can do proper documentation for the team and all that. So similar things going to happen in big companies. They will give it little chunk and see how it behaves before they fully immerses it into using their whole code base. So what I see happening is that, so in big companies, there are engineering teams that work with the next feature, and then there are engineering teams that work with the existing feature, just to maintain the existing feature. So one thing I say is that either they'll outsource one of those things to the AI, and then look at what the AI did and build on top of that. But for big tech company, there's a long way for them to absorb it. So step by step by step. Now, but for startups, the amazing stuff about startup is that, I mean, I'm going to do a coding session this weekend and roll out the product on Monday. And that's only possible because of AI. So what I say is that a lot of MVPs are going to be split every 2 weeks, every 1 month, every 2 months. And now the whole money in the startup space is going to be moved from the MVP build to the marketing for market fit. And then when you do the market fit, now look at, okay, this is the MVP. How do we build this for production, and how do we make that stable? So that's basically how I see it working in the startup space. And then a lot of people are just going to have a 2-man team. So of course there are a lot of 2-man team, but now rather than us waiting for 3 months, 6 months to roll out the MVP, is going to happen in a month. And then the co-founder goes out, hey, we have our product. Let's see what happens. What's going to happen? So that's basically how it's going to look like, I think.
Awesome.
Just to step into that, fully agreed. I think, like you said, it's a matter of, when you have different sized companies using AI, you have different amounts of leverage that can be applied by those employees at those companies using AI, right? Like if you have a small team and you have a small company with a smaller code base, you can multiply your engineering efforts much more effectively than you can if you were Google and you had tens of thousands of engineers and you had code bases with tens of thousands of files and things like that, right? Like you can imagine how, for example, I worked at a small company called Carta that also did payments technology, and we had a pretty small code base and we had a pretty small set of engineers. Sometimes I would be the only person in office in location for like weeks at a time, and because of that, us using an AI agent to do something was really effective because it was basically like you could call in these like 3 on-call engineers that were like living somewhere remotely. You never see them, but like they were able to interpret the sort of limited quantity of code that you needed it to interpret and understand, and then also make the somewhat basic changes that you needed it to make, right? But you can imagine as you add layers and layers of dependencies, like a company like Google or like a larger company like Microsoft, Amazon, et cetera, would have, right? Like you have services that live on different platforms that are calling into other services that live on other platforms. The documentation for the service that one service is calling might just be like a protobuf definition that's defined somewhere else that the model can't even access, right? So it's really about like, when you have a small company, your data is more interconnected than a larger company, which is kind of like counterintuitive. Larger companies' data is like obviously interconnected, but it's less immediately visible when you start looking at something on a surface level, right? And for AI tools, it's like what they look at on a surface level that really matters for them to get an understanding of what to do next. So yeah, I think smaller companies have a smaller world of concern, and that helps them leverage their tools, even if they're not AI. That helps them leverage all tools a little bit better and more effectively than larger companies, right? It's the reason why we have growing pains when you transition from a small to a medium company, and then when you transition from a medium to a large company as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think I'll just direct this question to Ashit. Based on his background, working at different companies like Amazon, X, and definitely currently Google. So from development standpoint, just to piggyback on what Kevin has also said and Victor, what are the biggest challenges? What are the biggest opportunities available for engineers right now that are working with AI in let's say large scale production systems? Like at companies like Google, that have thousands of code bases and all.
You mean like what's a challenge for engineers who are working with AI?
Yeah, correct.
So I feel, as I said, I think it has made life easier for developers working with AI, right? I think for junior engineers, as I said, like they have different set of challenges, about knowing things. For more senior engineers, AI is assistive, right? I think the opportunities at least I see is to me, previously when I have not seen AI during my time at X and my time at Amazon, but previously the things which it took me let's say a few days or sometimes more time to learn. It's really easy to learn with AI, right? I think given I have some basics, I know how to tackle so how to learn or what kind of where do I want to focus upon, right? I mean, an example can be I work on the networking side, and it's a very Google is a very very big internal network WAN. Now knowing okay, different pieces of WAN which interacts with each other is fairly tricky, I think. And historically, anyone who has joined my team, it has taken them a significant amount of time to learn those things, right? For me, it's significantly easier. I think one of the things which to the previous questions which the speakers were saying, right? Even the internal AI is improving leaps and bounds. It's nowhere perfect, as perfect as that, but it's improving, right, significantly. So to me, I think at least maybe I'll not say a challenge. I will say it is an opportunity. I mean, I can focus on far more meaningful things. I expect my team to be far more productive, being done with more mundane work, faster, and then I think spend more time, right? I think on more interesting problems or learn about, let's say, customers or other things, right? I think also I think to the previous question, I think where you talked about AI in fintech, I agreed with Kavin's I think suggestion that an engineer who understands fintech will have far more leverage than an engineer who understands AI. I mean, because AI is a simply much easier skill to learn overall. So yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, I will not see. I mean, the only thing which I see as an engineer, the challenge is systems are moving way too fast. I think previously things were moving, let's say, once in a few years. Now with AI agents, workflows, systems are moving too fast, and anything which at least I have tried building it on it becomes outdated, right? I think so. So the thing which at least I'm trying to follow is build solutions which improve with advancements in AI. but in general, that's a fairly hard thing to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashit, for that. So contribution around AI research, and what are the profound impacts on future careers? Benedict, do you want to talk more on that? So just to reframe the question a little bit more. So what are the emerging careers, of AI research? What do you believe will be like, let's say, profound impacts on our future career, as a result of AI research, and what are the foundational knowledge that are crucial for folks that want to, branch into those focus?
All right. Thank you, Bolu, for the question. So yeah, what I'm about to say might be controversial, but if you study what we have right now, what we're branding as AI, basically we have LLMs, right? Large language models. Very impressive piece of technology, really, but I think we are missing the point of where AI research right now is heading. We are heading towards human level kind of super intelligence, right? What we have now with large language models basically is a fancy next word or next token prediction. That's basically what LLMs are. You hear people say reasoning models. What we have right now is mimicry. It's a facade. You have to, the more research you do in the field, the more you see this is all hypes, right? You're trying to sell a product. Most of these companies are trying to sell an idea, they're trying to sell a product. But at the core of the research, what's going on is we have a really powerful architecture that has the ability to take long sequence of characters and then predict the next character. That's it. That's what the whole hype is about. That's what the whole clamor is about. It's very impressive, don't get me wrong, but there's no reasoning behind the scene, right? So you're basically looking at a system that takes in sequence of tokens and based off of a probability distribution gives you the most likely next token to follow that semantically matches what it has seen before now, and then it keeps on doing that, right? So at the end of the day, piggybacking to your question, there's still a lot of work to do in AI research. You hear companies like OpenAI saying they've achieved AGI. Personally, I wouldn't say personally because I'm not the only person that shares this bias towards LLMs. We are never going to get to AGI with large language models, right? It might be a controversial thing to say, but at least if you're here on this call, you can know you had it today on Bulu Atife call. Basically, if we want to get to human intelligence or super intelligence, we would never get there with the current transformer architecture, which is powering large language models. And you see scientists like Meta's top scientist, Jan LeCun. He has actually, said this, and those in the research frontier knows what's going on. Companies would want to sell a product, right? But behind the scene, there's still a whole lot of work to be done. I mean, Jan LeCun is proposing a world model version. For us to get to actual intelligence, we need a machine that doesn't just take literal representation and then spit out a literal representation back to us. We need something that can be able to take in what we call latent variables. So for example, I give you a text variable A and you give me a text output B. What you basically did was you found a structure within the inputs I gave to you, and then you gave me the next probable output, right? But what a researcher like Jan LeCun is proposing is giving a field of information, we find hidden patterns within it, right? And those hidden patterns is what we get to learn, right? And then emergent behaviors come from there, right? So we find a very complicated mathematical patterns in these hidden variables that we can then use to model actual tasks and solutions to certain problems. Now, this is very high level concepts that we are looking into, but what this tells you is we are nowhere near where we intend to go in terms of AI research. So there are still so many fields to know. There are still so many things that are not yet known, right? Anyone who's on this call and probably thinking we've gotten to a plateau, we've not scratched the surface. So what are the possible emergent career? AI research. If you want to get into AI research itself is the future career that you are looking out for. Jan LeCun argues that self-supervised learning is the future to achieving, super intelligence. I mean, we recently moved from basically supervised learning, unsupervised learning. So supervised learning basically is when you are training with labeled data, right? Unsupervised is when you have unlabeled data and you're trying to learn some relationship within your data, right? So we have another paradigm of learning, and that's reinforcement learning, where you have a certain goal and you use mathematical structures to try to optimize for its specific goal point. But we're still using the knowledge available to us, right? Mathematical knowledge to try to model certain problems. Now we have self-supervised learning, and you see all these various fields is just because we're trying to tackle a particular body of problem. So at the end of the day, you still need your maths. Your maths needs to be very solid, especially if you're trying to go into the area of AI research. You see tools like linear algebra, you see tools like calculus, differential calculus, integral calculus, and you don't sleep on any of that, right? You hear students these days ask, where would I ever use some of this knowledge in real world? You are interfacing with ChatGPT to cheat on your exam. That's a product of maths. It's basically just all maths behind the scene, right? And then some really fancy advanced engineering, but it's basically all mathematical objects. So if you're on this call and you want to be in a specific kind of field where a lot of active reasoning, a lot of active development is currently going on, one that might be immune to is AI taking my job tomorrow. As far as I can tell you, what we currently have, the advancements we have in AI is AI isn't capable of reasoning as we know it, right? We saw recently, I think OpenAI and Gemini, right? They said they achieved gold on the International Maths Olympiad, which is a very significant feat. But in the core sense of it, because I know they are running transformer architectures, I know it's not reasoning in the sense of reasoning, right? They probably have found an efficient way of mapping patterns, and then we have emergent behaviors and all that. But at the core end of it, we've not scratched the surface of what it means for a machine to reason. So that means we still have active areas to look into in terms of the research. And how do you get on board the research? You study a physical science domain. Look at how we produce images using natural languages, tools like DALL-E, where you use diffusion models. You start with a point, you start with a noise, and then you make pattern out of it. Diffusion models basically stole its underpinnings from statistical mechanics and physics, right? And then you're seeing you're doing deep learning where you're doing a forward propagation and then you're doing a back propagation to try to reduce the errors or optimize a certain loss function. That's basically just matrix multiplication at the end of the day. So you're seeing this a high level maths concept from physical science domain. So if you want to build a career in AI research, I would say study the fundamentals again. I think this is kind of like the only thing I've been saying on this call. The fundamentals are needed. Forget the hype, filter out the hype. We still have fundamentals that are being built upon to power whatever advancements we are seeing now. Don't skip those fundamentals, no matter what the reason is. And if you want to go into AI as a field of endeavor, what we need to learn is still vast. Don't think it's a saturated area of research. No, contributions are still needed. We don't exactly know what we are doing collectively. We just have a bunch of corporate heads, CEOs who are trying to sell a product and making it look like we don't exactly know what is going on. We don't exactly know how deep learning actually works within, like, internally, how it makes its decision. AI is not yet explainable. We don't have full interpretability into most of the models that are being built. So we have different areas that still needs active research and working. So let this be a call to not discourage you if you're on this call. If you want to get into AI research, there's still so many areas that we don't know much about. And yeah, your contributions are still needed and welcome. Thank you, brother.
Awesome. Victor, please. Go ahead.
Yeah. So just to add to what you're saying, like, you're absolutely right. Like, if you look at when DeepMind came out newly, basically that was all that's what was happening. And then because of the hype, now money and resources have moved into something else. Now, one of the articles I was reading was looking at another way to achieve AGI, that even the way reasoning is happening now, just like how you said, is still wrong. And even the take you took, they had a different take to that. And their take was that, number one, you have to still achieve multi-model, which has to do with speech and all that. So the whole process, and for models, for speech, you still have to still convert speech to text still. So at the end of the day, it still goes back to text and then goes back to machine numbers. So that whole architecture itself needs to change. And I was talking about the way humans think, which is more of a point-based, that, okay, this is audio, this is this thing. I don't have to convert audio to text because some of the things can be missing. And it's like, this is a more, how will I put it? Sorry, I can't get the words right, but I'll just illustrate. It's kind of like a new realm of reasoning for machines where they have all these computations coming into one place. Good word could be diffusion. And then from there, it produces a result. So when I'm coming through from an audio perspective, it doesn't change it from audio to text. It processes directly from audio itself and gives me the direct answer at once. So it's just an interesting take that when I was reading, I was like, fine, yeah, AGI is not coming in, but we have to give it they have to justify the money they're spending. And if you notice, even the reason why they had to mimic the reasoning model was because the Chinese found a way to power this large models. And what it did was that, okay, rather than the whole machine to come on, a part of it just comes on, and then it reduces the cost, and the result was amazing. And that literally allowed everyone to rewrite the way the architecture is being built. And the future also, like, again, like you said, like, no one knows what they are doing. It's similar thing that happened when VR and AR was the hype. People really know what they were doing, but we knew what we were trying to achieve. And the vision for VR and AR was the ability for me to feel touch, feel sensory from one space to another space. And technology is going, like, crazy things are happening in that space. But thank God, the fanboy now is AI. So we know that definitely somebody's going to release a new machine that, oh, I can feel someone from China, I can feel someone from Dubai, and then everyone will forget about AI and go back there. And then, like, when there's noise in this field, innovation doesn't happen because we have investors, like, on our neck. They want result. Everybody now releasing stuff. And what are they releasing? CAT system. You're just creating an advanced chatbot. So yeah, like, I agree with you. And like you really dumb it down and made sense, in the sense that when back in the day, 2015, when you're looking at AI, like, it was real. When you look at, they'll say, okay, where do you want to go? Are you going for national computer vision? Are you going for national learning? Are you going for deep learning? Deep learning is like the big boys. But now no one cares about that. I want to do genetic Gen AI and models. We're doing fine tuning. And what is it? We want to make a super chat system. That doesn't make sense. So yeah, I agree with you.
Awesome. So guys, thank you everyone. We have 2 questions left. I don't know if you guys want to, like, quickly, everyone just kind of like talk about it, and then we can call it a wrap. I mean, we are a little bit overboard on our timeline now. So this first question is about what are the foundational skills, both technical, non-technical. We have product managers on the call, we have product designers, there are wondering what's going to look like, what's the future is going to look like. So let's say non-technical skills, there's critical thinking, adaptability, creativity. So what are the foundational skills that are becoming indispensable for individuals looking to strive in AI-driven tech landscape, or broadly AI-driven future?
I said this earlier, but I think communication is the most important skill that we can carry now to this day, right? Because obviously we need to know the fundamentals and stuff, but I'm assuming that's just that's implied, right? We as engineers and we as people that work in a technology industry need to know the fundamentals, and we need to know how things work as a responsibility to who we work with and the users that use the stuff that we work on, right? But apart from that, right, like your communication skill is the most important skill you can carry in this day and age, because in a period of time where you can speak things into a model and have it generate code or like undertake entire research projects for you, or et cetera, right? Like your ability to articulate your thoughts and get your ideas across, get your sort of requests or your formative thoughts across for any topic is very important, right? Like we can imagine a future, like I said before, where tools like Cursor are so good that engineers don't need to research or write code, but just supervise models, right? And we're getting increasingly close to that future. So it is purely your communication skill that you're going to be relying on in like the next 10 years to get results, whether it be from your peers that are using AI or just from AI itself, right? And communication is twofold. Like since AI itself is good at communicating, like we know that LLMs are great at like making things human readable and et cetera. We need to make sure that we stand out as humans as well, right? Like we cannot be worse communicators than the models that we use, because that means that we're not going to be using them effectively in the future. And it means that we're not going to be as articulate or as thoughtful engineers or employees or just human beings in general, right? Like we need to make sure that if we're making this technology that significantly increases on our written and spoken complexity, we need to make sure that we keep up with that complexity.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to add to that, like it's just something random that just occurred to me when you were talking, was that so back at Google, like we had some like internal code base that new languages that we're experimenting with. At Facebook released Flutter. But what I'm thinking that might happen like in the far future might be a new language base for coding that is known and written by LMs. So it's like if I write in Flutter, it rewrites it in its own language, or rather than it spitting out it's like the underlying code base is in this unique language that only the machines and understand. And then when I want a result, it like asks what language do I want it to bring it out. Because when you kept saying communication, like it just reminded me on even like this is like a insult to all of us. It's like even us too, we're just people that know how to use Flutter, know how to use this language, but we don't know how to. We didn't write that language, we didn't write that logic. So like if you can actually even go down one step to understand the logic around why Flutter was made, why React was made. React was made by Facebook because the existing language had limitations, so they had to relook that. So like the road to AGI would see a future where a new, like we have been doing zeros and ones for a very long time. It's going to rewrite the whole way languages are being written. And it's going to be a scary reality. But it works, and it makes everything work so beautiful. So it's just something that just hits me now. Like that might be a future that could occur.
Awesome. Does anyone wants to talk on that, technical, non-technical skills that would become indispensable? Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Hashit. So just to put this as short as possible, I would say, which is kind of like a secular response, but I would say people should learn the skill of learning once more. And I think concentrated learning, right? like I said, if we're going to survive in this AI evolution phase, we need people who are skilled in different areas coming together to actually, advance as a species. We don't want situations where everyone is always jumping on hypes, right? One of the skill sets you can give to yourself back is learning to learn once again. Communication is very good, problem solving, critical thinking. I mean, critical thinking in this our generation, do we still have that ability? I'm not, I hope we've not lost it entirely, but my point is find a specific niche and learn it. Develop the ability to sieve out unnecessary information, find a specific part and learn to learn once again. I think it's a skill that we are losing. Everyone is trying to jump on the next big thing, the next shiny thing. We're talking MCP, someone who was supposed to be an ML engineer or a data scientist. Now he's trying to compete with software engineers, saying he is an AI engineer. You are a data scientist. You can't do AI engineering more than software engineers. Let's be realistic. Victor, you're laughing. It's the truth. I come from a data science background. I can't do AI engineering more than Kevin would do or Victor would do, but I'm an AI researcher. But most people have forgotten AI engineering is actually software engineering, where we're using API, built around LLMs to actually solve problems. And these guys are software engineers. I'm just a data scientist. Learn your craft, learn it well, and sieve out the noise. Fall in love with learning again. I think it's a skill that would stand the test of time in this whole AI evolution phase. Yeah.
Awesome. Ashley, do you want to talk on that?
No, I think it's already covered more or less. I mean, your communication, I think when maybe an aspect of communication I can add is like, even to work with LLM, I think like, how do you break down things or like, if for reasoning model, I mean, that's aspect. And I think the fundamentals part which Kevin talked about, that's mostly for like checking the LLM output and making sure what it's generating is meaningful. So, like, I mean, I think everyone like Benedict, Victor, and Kevin, whatever they said, I agree with them.
Awesome. Thank you. Victor, you wanna? Okay, I think that's the need now. Yep.
Oh yeah. Everyone said like everything correctly. Like that ability to relearn how to learn, that beauty for us senior engineers is like it's really exciting because now it's oh my god, I remember this. How did I forget this? And it's really really exciting for me. Like I started learning Electron again just for the fun of it, and it's fun and beautiful. I started reading some research papers again. It's fun and beautiful. And the fun part is that now I can pick up documents that I have zero knowledge about. And then I have this AI dumb it down for me. And it's like, I'm in chapter, okay, it just reminds me back in the day when I was entering finance and I had to have this financial dictionary. And then with my Google, and I'm in chapter 1, I'm trying to understand what the hell is this language? What the hell is leverage? What's this? What's that? And I'm using Google, and now I have AI for that. So that ability to relearn, like before, I think I've said this in other calls, and it's like, see, the hype is going to be that. Spend this time building, because when the big companies come to hire people, they want experienced people from 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And if you spend your time catching the cloud because you want to cash in now, you're going to lose a lot. People in UI, UX, like when the hype for AR, VR and AI came, I literally told my friends, focus on VR interface. And now they're making crazy amount of money because there are a lot of innovations going out there. Same thing with robotics. When the hype was in drones, I was like, forget about this. Focus on humanoid robots. Now that industry is kicking up because the software has reached a particular point where there are more R&D and all that. So like, everyone has said it, and if all of us are saying the same thing, then I don't know what you're supposed to go and do now. So just relearn. You're not losing out in anything. Honestly, you're not losing out. So it's better for you to spend the next 5 years being an expert because, hey, you can't bullshit me if I hire you. That's the truth. And I don't think you can bullshit any of those people when you hire you, because in as much as you can bullshit the interview, the technical side, the first 2 weeks, first 3 weeks, it was chill. That's the truth. And it's your ability that from those learning hours and months and years, well, not just live months in case you're looking for money, that would put you away from others that have just been vibing their whole life. Because even those that vibe, you don't understand. If you don't understand the fundamentals, you still mess it up. So I can keep going back in cycles, but that's just the truth.
Awesome. So final question. I think we should take this in like less than 5 minutes so everyone can go back to work, and appreciate that for everyone. So question on what are the unique opportunities that you guys have been seeing in your different locations? You know, let's say from the United States, we're carving each to India to Victor. I don't know where Victor is currently, but he's originally based in the UK, and Benedict in Japan. So, I mean, we just want to like, what are the unique opportunities you have been seeing, especially with impact of AI? You know, just, you know, what are the opportunities that carriers, some people, especially some different regions, especially United States, would have more accelerated impact of AI than other regions. So some people are adopting AI than others, so the pace is different. Any thoughts on that?
In the US, it's just like every single company is trying to make every single thing AI related, like every single thing. It's kind of ridiculous to a certain point, right? It's like they're trying to get rid of lawyers, they're trying to get rid of tax preparers, they're trying to get rid of accountants, they're trying to get rid of healthcare like quoters, they're trying to get rid of like initial virtual doctor's visits even, right? If you can put on like a humanoid face that has like is backed by like OpenAI's voice mode and stuff, it's as good as some telehealth doctors sometimes. Still bad, obviously, right? Like we should not be having GPT-4 telling me where to go to get my bruise diagnosed or something. That's crazy. I'm gonna die. But yeah, no, in the US, it's pretty much like every opportunity a company can take, they're taking it. So here is where there is a lot of positions for leverage engineering, like people using those models and just using the API to integrate with something to get rid of another company, or to like get rid of a certain role that people play, or to get rid of like a whole category of jobs or something, for example, right? Like even Tesla's full self-driving system is a black box end-to-end LLM model. Actually, it's not like Waymo. It's not an input-output model. It's a black box. It's a totally like unknown LLM model that just does driving for you. And I use Tesla. It works great, but like it's still scary, right? It's like, what the hell is it doing? Like, why is it taking this turn at this time? Like, it's crazy. So in the US, definitely, it's just tons of leverage engineering positions opening up, but not necessarily more actual AI research or actual AI roles that are opening up in comparison to other places. Because like Benedict said, right? Like people don't understand that AI research is fundamentally different from using LLMs.
Awesome. So any other last words or comments, Victor, Benedict? Yeah.
Yeah, so in the UK, UK is well regulated, so the madness is a bit chill. But I mean, the chat system is still there. But like, right now, I'm in the entertainment space. So like, one of the conversations we've been having with Barney J, Netflix, Amazon is basically how they can use LLM in the whole entertainment space. And mind you, I'm not talking about VFX. VFX is cool, but it's not there yet. I'm talking about from a place of financial auditing. So there's something called incentive in the entertainment space, where before you shoot, so any movie above 40 million is not shot in the States because there's no incentive to make them shoot it there. So most movies are being shot in Canada or in Europe. Now, for you to shoot that movie, you have to hire an accountant, a lot of documentation, a lot of auditing that happens. So it's like, right, then I was spending like 200K doing that. How can we use models to understand the incentives in this state, this jurisdiction, and maximize it? So that is like a new space. And even with that, it's still trying to optimize an existing model by using supervised learning. And when you find that even the data coming in, like example, that's what I'm currently working on, and like what I had to redo was I had to rebuild the PDF extractor, because the extractor was the most expensive extractor is still failing, because if you cannot give enough context to the LLM, it's still bad. So like what Ben has said, like forget the hype. Just focus on the research and understand, okay, what is the actual practical use case? It's not everything that has to be AI. Like there was this joke online that on my screen right now, sorry, not physical, like it's just I'm speaking in third person. On my screen right now, I have 10 AI example. For example, I'm using Windows. I have Copilot telling me what to do. On my browser, I have Gemini's own telling me what to do. I'm on Notion. Notion has one there. Notion has this thing. At the end of the day, I have like 12 trying to do the same single thing. So, yo, like in 2 years' time, like that hype is gonna die, and people will find out that it was really a waste of time, and companies can cool down and continue to build. But before that hype happens, like places that would there's going to be a lot of money coming in is the marketing side, because now products are coming out very, very fast. So the marketing department would not be able to meet up with that. So understanding pipelines and selling products, market fit, you'll make a lot of money there while you're spending time doing data science, learning AI science. And mind you, if you're tracking what's happening in AI space, those that have been hired are AI scientists. They're not AI engineers. They're scientists because they need to know what the fuck, sorry, what the hell is going on. And that's why they keep hiring data scientists. Like the hires have been happening. Oh, they're paying them 100. And the last one I saw was $100 million. So that's the most expected. Those are the ones making money now, because they need to interpret what the hell is going on. So that is where you should go to if you want to get hired in the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years using AI. But if you want to catch up now, forget it, go into marketing and see how you can sell the products, the crappy products that are coming in, whether it's good or not, they're going to hire because they cannot keep up with the demand. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victor. Last word, Ashid, and then we close with Benedict.
Yeah, I think maybe just a parallel thing I want to say. Like, well, there is hype. I mean, I think there's also like utility. I mean, especially I think around social area. Like, I mean, for let's say country like India, I think there's like a lot of opportunities around education, and they may not be like very profitable opportunities, but I think it's definitely going to. I mean, I think it's going to replace a lot of these service centers, jobs, and other things, but it's also going to like empower like at least a lot of um, students, or yeah, I think maybe economically weaker section, right? I think individuals. It's also empowering, let's say, us. I mean, I can see of like an opportunity around like schools who are using AI, or like maybe textbooks like which are modified using AI, right? So, but that's just one domain, not everything.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Ben, you want to close on what's your thoughts? Probably in Japan right now, or when you were in South Africa?
Yeah, so in conclusion, well, speaking from being here in Japan, I know Japan to be a very advanced nation, and I was thinking there'll be a whole wave of AI hype here, and it's not the case. At least those I work with in the lab, you'll see these guys actually still know their craft. I mean, I'm working with guys from not theory, topological data analysis, some really advanced maths, and then they use AI basically to aid their research, especially. And I think one of the most common use of AI here is basically language translation, right? These guys want to read a PDF, convert it to Japanese or something like that, right? Because some of them, their English is not like perfect. But at the end of the day, you see these guys are still doing their core day-to-day task that they know how to do very well. And then that drives me to the conclusion. The goal at the end of the day, I know I've said a whole lot of controversial things here, don't get me wrong. What we have is working, but I'm saying it's been hyped to an extent. And a whole AI for language translate. Yeah, you'll be surprised, right? So you're trying to basically translate an advanced text in not theory or some advanced maths. I mean, I basically have a very strong maths background, but trust me, the maths some of these guys are doing here in Japan, I can't keep up with it. So yeah, exactly. So what was I trying to point out? Yeah. So I wasn't just trying to play it down. Like, it's really serious work. They're trying to do translation, very accurate translation for the text. But what I'm saying is, we have something that works. Don't, let the hype sway you enough that you forget that whatever it is you're doing now, you actually should think of the next 10 years. You won't be vibe coding forever. Find a niche and let that niche consume you. Find your area of specialty, because the future of AI is not just replacing humans, it's actually augmenting, working with us. The future is humans and AI working in synergy. So if you are just another human overly dependent on AI technology, AI has no reason to want to work with you. You would get replaced. Have your niche and then find how to use AI to maximize your productivity in that niche. That would be my concluding statement. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Kevin. You guys are still around, 2 p.m. in the United States right now. So, I mean, it's a lot of work. Benedict is, I think, 1 a.m. So I'm not sure what time it is in China, in India, and I think UK time, you guys are 1 hour behind. So pretty much. Thank you, everyone, for making our time. It's really exciting to have this conversation. We have a bunch of people in our community. They are self-taught folks. They already work. Some of them are already working. Trying to upskill, trying to develop, and just explore new opportunities within that space. I'm seeing that some people want to ask questions. I don't know if you guys want to take questions. If you want to take questions, I think we can have one person to ask question. Just one person. Yeah. So go for it if you want to unmute your mic. Since someone trying to raise up his hand. Okay. The absence of any question. Oh yeah, go for it, so man.
Good evening, everyone. It's been exciting being in this call. So my question is that there's been a lot of layoffs since the AI stuff started. So as we the newbies in the industry, what is the advice are you going to give us so that are still coming up in the industry? Are we to be discouraged, or should we continue pushing and learning our stuff?
I can provide some insight on this. So for context, I've worked at roughly 8 different companies now, ranging from startups to larger companies like Stripe and OpenAI. And the best thing that I can tell you about layoffs is that you cannot prepare for them. There are so many forces at play in the corporate world that might not stem from logic, that might not stem from anything, that can cause a layoff. And if you go to try to think about it and like beat yourself up over like, oh, how could I have prepared for this better? Oh, how do I make sure I don't get laid off and things like that? It's not something that you can do. You can't really not get laid off, right? Because once you start working at a company, I'm just assuming you're going to be putting your best effort forward, right? Once you're putting your best effort forward, everything else at a company is a game, right? Everything else is a game of how you are presenting yourself to leadership, how you're presenting yourself to your manager and your peers and stuff like that, right? And some people can play that game and other people can't, but what you need to keep in mind is just you need to put your best foot forward into everything that you do in any company or any work environment or any friendly or peer environment even, right? And once you have that step in, if you get laid off, that is not your fault. It is due to corporate pressures, and it's due to politics, and it's due to a whole plethora of bullshit that can happen in a company, right? Like, for example, there are various companies in the US that are laying people off because they used AI to replace like low-level engineers. And very quickly, those companies find out after 1 month that the engineers that they replaced were much more useful than the cursor tools and stuff that they ended up using to replace them. So in terms of how to not get laid off, you can't really do that. Like, it's obviously you can choose to try to go into specific jobs that have a lower likelihood of getting laid off, but that's also difficult, right? Like, how do you tell like what job is going to lay you off less, or like what job has higher like resource contention or like applicants and stuff like that? It's not within your control, but what's within your control is to just always put your best foot forward when you go into a company, right? Because then you're covering your own ass. Like, you're making sure that you're doing the best at work. If you get laid off, you know that you tried your best. You know that you couldn't have increased your work output or like been better or anything, because you've already been trying your best to be the best you can when you show up to work every day. Everything apart from that is politics, it's jobs, and layoffs are going to be a thing that continues happening. It's going to happen no matter what happens to the industry. Companies are always going to do some silly stuff, right? At the end of the day, you're just an employee to them. You're not their family. You're not their friend. You get paid by the company. And then if they decide that they don't want to keep you around, or they have some other reasons, then that is on them. And it's also fair for them in a company sense, right? Like, they're a business. They're here to make money. They're not here to feed you and your family. They're not here to make you happy. So you need to be looking out for yourself, and then also looking out for the image that you portray. But apart from that, you're just trying your best, right? You can't really protect yourself against layoffs. So when it happens, you just adjust and you try your best to be prepared to search for another job if you do get laid off, right? So like making sure you're continuously brushed up on like your leak code fundamentals, or like your programmatic interviewing skills, and etc.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Kevin. I mean, that's exhaustive. I think that will be all. Thank you everyone for joining once again. I really appreciate you guys, coming to discuss with us, and I think we would call it a day. Have a good one, guys.